What's up, everybody? My name is Brad, and welcome back to the final episode of Brad's Book Awards, where I've been talking about all my favorite books I read last year in 2020. These aren't necessarily books that came out last year. These are just books that I happened to read last year, and I've been celebrating my favorite ones. And like I said, this is the final episode, the grand finale, the big shebang, if you will. Today, we're going to be talking about my top 10 favorite horror novels of 2020. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. And coming in at the number 10 spot is Monster by Duncan Swan. This one leans heavily on the sci-fi elements more so than horror, but there is horror sprinkled throughout here. I think big blockbuster action summer movie type thing like Independence Day. There's Marines and aliens and post-apocalyptic scenario, this doomsday event, so to speak. I really enjoyed it, had a lot of fun with it. It felt like an action movie reading it. And this is volume 1. Volume 2 is coming out, I think, summer of 2021, maybe fall of 2021. We'll see. This is my number 10 pick, Monster by Duncan Swan. And coming in at the number 9 spot is Dead Daughters by Tim Meyer. This is put out by Silver Shamrock Publishing. Had a lot of fun with this one. It's sort of thriller and true crime with bits of horror mixed in. We're following this husband and wife and daughter family dynamic. And they get some disturbing mail. They get some pictures in the mail of their daughter, and she's been murdered, but their daughter is actually upstairs in a room, safe and sound. And you sort of fall down the mystery, the rabbit hole from there. It's got a lot of intrigue and, like I said, thriller aspects and mystery and lots of twists. You don't really know who to trust. You think you can't trust this one person, and then you maybe think they're okay, and you put your distrust in someone else, and you flip back and forth. It has you guessing all the way to the very end. Very fast-paced, entertaining, fun read. This is my number 9 pick, Dead Daughters by Tim Meyer from Silver Shamrock Publishing. Coming in at number 8 is Blackheart Boys Choir by Curtis M. Lawson. I had a ton of fun with this book. I really like the incorporation of classical music into the plot. Our main character, he might be an unreliable narrator. Whatever's happening to him might really be happening. It might be all in his head. We're not sure. But he's trying to compose or find the missing pieces to this piece of music that might be sort of possessed and haunted by a demon. And it goes on from there. It was a lot of fun, and it might be an allegory for something else entirely. I don't want to say. You'll have to read the book, and once you find out, get to the end, you'll sort of see what I'm talking about. This one was a lot of fun. Lots of, like I said, classical music inspiration here. Maybe some psychosis and, mental issues with the main character. Not for sure. You'll have to read and find out. This one was a ton of fun, but this is my number 8 pick, Blackheart Boys Choir by Curtis M. Lawson. And coming in at number 7, this book is part of a trilogy, and it was hard for me to decide if I wanted to talk about book 1 or book 2 of the trilogy here. I really enjoyed both of them for vastly different reasons, but book 1 edged out just a little bit. I think I like this one just a little bit more. But this is number 7 pick, The Patience of a Dead Man by Michael Clark. Book 1 in his aptly named The Patience of a Dead Man trilogy. If you're looking for a haunted house story, this one is fantastic. I loved it. It felt so much different and refreshing than all the other haunted house stories out there. Our main characters are not trapped in this house. They're not being possessed. It felt different, and the villain here is unique and different as well. It's not just your average ghost or spirit. There's more to our main villain than meets the eye. You'll discover that as you read along in the book. But yeah, if you want a great ghost story, a great haunted house story, this is definitely a fantastic trilogy to check out. This is my number 7 pick, The Patience of a Dead Man by Michael Clark. And coming in at number 6, I feel like I talk about this series almost every single video for the most part. This is my favorite book in this series, and this is Sleepwalking by Daniel Barnett. It's book 3 in his Nightmare Land Chronicles series. This is the longest book in the series so far. I think it's probably the only one that can be counted as a novel. All the other ones are novellas. This is a fantastic series. I've been harping on it forever. It's post-apocalyptic, but in this world, the sun has gone out. The world has fallen into darkness, and as the name of the series entails, the Nightmare Land Chronicles, there's these nightmares out there lurking in the darkness. This is my favorite book in the series so far. We have read the first 4 books. Great character work, great settings, just vivid imagery all around. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. But this is my number 6 pick, Sleepwalking by Daniel Barnett. book 3 in the Nightmareland Chronicles series. Coming in at number 5 is 1,000 Miles to Nowhere by David Kerfis. I actually listened to this one on audiobook, and this is one of the best zombie books I've ever read. I'm not the biggest fan of zombies, sort of after The Walking Dead sort of saturated the market and everything was zombies for a while. This book does a great job of, the focus is on the characters and the people, and the zombies are sort of just the backdrop. It is bleak and brutal, and people die in this book. It doesn't have a very hopeful ending. There's a sliver of hope, but I enjoyed it. It was a ton of fun. I really liked the world building here. The characters were great. You get attached to them, and then characters die, and you get sad. Fantastic read. If you're not big on zombies, I still suggest you check this one out because the focus is not on the zombies. It's heavy on the character development, and there's tons of action and death and gore. Just all around a bunch of fun. This is my number 5 pick, 1,000 Miles to Nowhere by David Kerfis. Coming in at the number 4 pick, we're down to the nitty-gritty now. These were so hard to determine which one would go where in what spot. The whole entire top 10 was like this, but especially these last 4, any of them could have been anywhere. But coming in at number 4 is The Magpie Coffin by Weil E. Young. This is the first book in the splatter western series put out by Death's Head Press, the one that started the whole sort of craze and phenomenon that everyone is enjoying right now. I love this book. It was brutal. It was wicked and violent and gory, and I just absolutely loved it. I'm a big fan of westerns, and to get a horror western that's just super blood splattered and violent and gory was right up my alley. There's, like I said, there's western tropes in here, but they didn't feel tropey. There's maybe sort of bits of black magic, some Native American sort of folklore kind of stuff going on a tad bit, maybe some magical weapons and whatnot. But it was so much fun. I had a blast with it. One of the most fun I've had with a book all of last year. But yeah, definitely check it out if you like westerns, if you want something that's super violent and gory and almost Tarantino-esque over-the-top kind of violence and want just to have a lot of fun with a book. Definitely check this one out. This is my number 4 pick, The Magpie Coffin by Weil E. Young, put out by Death's Head Press. Coming in at number 3 is Tome by Ross Jeffrey. This is a prequel to his novella Juniper. I really enjoyed Juniper. I gave that one 4 stars, I believe, but this one, writing-wise and prose-wise and just overall storytelling-wise, felt like it was leaps and bounds above Juniper. This is a prison story. I'm not the biggest fan of books about prisons or movies or TV shows that take place in a prison. I don't know, they just don't hold my interest. But this book had me captivated the whole entire time. I love the atmosphere of it. It just felt bleak and dreary, just pouring down rain the whole time. It's dark, it's violent, it's grotesque at times. Overall, it was fantastic. The characters were well realized and rich. Just what is actually going on with the story was creepy and added this sort of bit of lore to it, this bit of mysticism, something bigger than just these people in this prison. Almost sort of Lovecraftian-esque type of vibes, but not really. You know, Ross was really crafting his own things here in this world, this town that he's created, Juniper. Overall, it's a fantastic read. Definitely check out Tome if I don't bend the book in half. Check out Tome, check out Juniper as well. Both of them are great. This is my number 3 pick, Tome by Ross Jeffrey. Coming in at the number 2 spot is Devil's Creek by Todd Keisling, put out by Silver Shamrock Publishing. This is a chunk of a book. It's like 300, almost 400 pages. The font is tiny. There's a lot of story in this book. This is my favorite small town horror novel since Salem's Lot by Stephen King. You know, there's cult horror here and cosmic horror and small town horror. It checks off a ton of boxes. It's also set in Kentucky, which gives it bonus points in my opinion. But I love the sort of vastness of it and the scope of it. We have our main characters, the Stafford Six, but there's all these small, tiny little side characters in the town of Stafford, Kentucky that just brings an extra richness to the world that Todd Keisling has created here, this town of Stafford, Kentucky. It just felt like a living, breathing town, and I really like books that are able to do that make the setting a character in its own right. It feels like a real place you could drive down the street and visit. But I really love this book. I love the nasty, dirty, cosmic horror elements, the cult elements here at play. It got gross and vile, and there was some nasty kind of sexual stuff going on. But I overall really enjoyed this book. This is my number 2 pick, Devil's Creek by Todd Keisling from Silver Shamrock Publishing. And coming in at the number 1 spot, my favorite horror novel I read in 2020. Go ahead and hit the drum roll. My number 1 horror novel of 2020 is The Boatman's Daughter by Andy Davidson. I absolutely loved everything about this book. This was probably the most beautifully written book that I read all year long out of everybody. The prose was just gorgeous. You felt like you were there in this setting. It's set in the South, another one of my favorite places. It's in Arkansas along the Prosper River. You're sort of down in the swamps and the bayous. You could hear the mosquitoes buzzing in your ear. You could feel that oppressive, heat and humidity bearing down on you. The characters were fantastic. They felt like real people. They had quirks. They felt like you could walk out and just shake their hand and meet them. The story was great. It has these dark, supernatural sort of elements at play, sort of bits of mythology in a way. Everything about it was fantastic. If you haven't read The Boatman's Daughter by Andy Davidson, I highly, highly suggest you check it out. It's sort of more literary horror, but there is a plot there. The characters do progress. There are things going on. Just everything about this book was amazing, in my opinion. Definitely my favorite horror novel that I read in 2020. If you haven't read it, do yourself a favor. Go check it out for yourself. I don't think you'll be disappointed. But my number 1 horror novel of 2020 is The Boatman's Daughter by Andy Davidson. So that's it. This is the end. This has been my top 10 horror novels that I read in 2020. All 10 books on this list are fantastic reads. You can't go wrong with any of them. I highly suggest you go check them out for yourself if you haven't done so already. Same goes for all the other videos in this series, Brad's Book Awards. All the books I've talked about in this series have been fantastic, and I hope you find a few that interest you and you go check them out for yourself, and maybe you'll find a book that you enjoy. But that's all I have for you guys today, so thank you for spending your time with me. Again, my name is Brad, and I'll talk to y'all later. Cheers.